if you look at neuroplasticity, if we highlight a couple of the letters here, we'll look at natural, expectation, reflexive, learn, simulate, innovative, consolidate, and training. And I'd like to kind of discuss each one of these and say, what I think we should be able to do in our training. So natural, consider your natural ability. Remind athletes what made them good at this particular sport in the first place. These are our abilities, our innate, our inborn, capabilities that we have always had that probably made us, they scouted us, when they saw, such and such is a great young swimmer or a great young athlete or a great young mind. Those very natural things that we have as athletes and as people are these being encouraged in the training environment. Expectation. It's very important to have high expectations, and it's also important to promote high expectations of your athletes. So many times expectations seem to be the downfall of what an athlete experiences. So they have high expectations and then they seem to put additional pressure on themselves. So the solution to that is to remove expectations, when in actual fact I think that that's false. If you have put in hours and hours of training and preparation, or you have dedicated yourself to achieving a goal, you should expect to achieve it. And so removing the expectations, as a result, removing the pressure, then I think what should rather be focused on is having the high expectations and learning how to control those environments when those expectations can be achieved. And so having just a different mindset and allowing somebody to have big goals and big expectations of themselves, and then giving them the toolbox in order to manifest that performance when the opportunity presents itself. So creating opportunities and that way managing expectations. So reflexive. Reflexive is such a powerful word if we spend a bit of time thinking about what it really means to us and in our daily lives. And this is why webinar 2 is fully devoted to the concept of being reflexive and reflexes. We are so naturally gifted with reflexive interactions with the world. What opportunities are we creating in training for somebody to be reflexive? What opportunities do you find as an athlete that you can just be reflexive? So learn. I think what's important is to stay curious as a coach or as an athlete and to take on a new aspect of improvement as if you were trying the sport for the first time. So this ultimately lends itself to the fact that a lot of our opinions of neuroplasticity kind of originate from childhood years. When you're learning to ride a bike or you're learning to speak, your brain is a sponge and you've got this capacity to learn. But what I often find is that there is that level of, I am now a developed athlete, or I'm a higher functioning athlete, and so I should be able to get the very complex things very quickly, and I'm not going to focus too much on the basics. Instead of walking into a situation or into any new technical challenge or to any new technique promoting drill and say, I'm going to adopt this as if I am a first-time swimmer. And once I've proven myself on that platform, then get excited about going on to the next level until you get into the real specifics. So maintain an element of curiosity. And then simulate. I think what's such an important thing, and there was a bit of research that I came across that spoke about when you're a scientist, it was Albert Einstein said that if you haven't produced anything great by the time you are 30, then you won't as a young scientist, which I think in today's day and age is almost stomach turning, because you kind of think, oh wow, I didn't even know that was the thing, and now I've approached 30 and I've gone past it just about. So creativity, they have proven, has no age, but productivity does. So what they actually did was, when they looked at Albert Einstein's statement saying you have to have produced an impactful publication, you have to have a massive influence in the world by the time you are 30, otherwise you won't. What he was comparing that to is from the age of 18, 19, the scientific outputs that he was producing and people of his time were producing was at their highest. And after 30, they started getting involved with different areas of life. And so their productivity went down, not necessarily their creativity. And the more you can produce, the more chance you have of producing something that is new. And so it wasn't the fact that you had to be under 30 to come up with new and creative ideas. It was just that you had to keep your productivity. So scientists that only started publishing by the age of 30 would show the same pattern and would have produced something impactful by the time they were 40, and those at 50, and those at 60. And I think one of the highest age Nobel Prize winners was in his late 80s. And so there was no limit on creativity, but mostly productivity. So if we can keep productive, we can maintain the creativity. And so think about that creativity as a coach, especially if you've been involved in the environment for many years. If you've been an athlete who's been participating in the sport for many years, don't lose your creativity in the sport. Your nervous system depends on it. And then innovate. So science has demonstrated that you need 400 repetitions to create a new synapse. So a synapse is the communication between the cells in your brain. 400 times you have to repeat that exact same movement before a synapse can be created. But if you have a look at the remodeling process, you can achieve that synapse in 10 to 20 repetitions if it is done in collaboration with play or excitement. When you were at school and you had a good subject, and you often associated that good subject, you were good at accounting, you were good at science, you were good at maths, you were good at history, you were good at art, you can often correlate that to having a good teacher. And so when we start to think about how we were engaging our brains in those environments, it's no wonder we became good or skilled in that area, because we only had to hear or engage with certain concepts so many times before they became synapses, before they became structured communications within our nervous system. When you are learning something that excites you or is done in a playful way, young children playing, learning, they develop at such a rapid rate. If you do something that's got no innovation and it's not exciting, you're going to have to do that 400 times in order to be able to consolidate it. So that's what science is saying. So we've got to use that in our training. Consolidate. So performance is what you do, and we can only vary this by a very small percentage. So through my swimming career, by the age of 16, I was swimming 24 seconds on a 50 free long course. And by the time I was 24 years old, I was swimming 22 seconds. So if you think about a 2-second drop over an 8-year period of time, my improvement in my actual performance was only by a very small percentage. But if you can have that percentage happening consistently, and you can consistently produce those high performance levels, the opportunity for your performance to mean something and mean something at the right competition, at the right event, at the right time, that's actually what makes you a high performer. So this is why it's important to get this concept around small changes have the capacity to not necessarily change your performance by massive percentages, but the influence that that change in performance can have will be massive. If you can do something 1% better or 2% better, it could mean the difference between having a good race and a great race. So consolidate those constant high performance environments. And then training. So training will ultimately determine the performance that we achieve and the success that we have. So it's important to remember that success is a boundless measure. Okay, so performance you are responsible for, but success is a boundless measure that is given by a collective of people. So if you break the world record in training, it will probably be unofficial. But if you break the world record at the World Championships or at the Olympic Games, your success will be big. The news will be big. So think about what you do in training and how you can transfer that